Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tal Schnell. I'm the Lead with Giants host here on Lead with Giants TV. This is our second segment with Joanie Connell here with us. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tal. It's good to be here.
Great. And you're in San Diego, I forgot to mention that. San Diego, California.
Yes, sunny San Diego.
All right. I was just talking to my brother not too long ago, so I envy of your weather, but we've got a little bit of high 60s here in Dallas, so it's somewhat hopefully the same. And also, thank you, Liz, for joining us as well.
Great to be here, Tal. Maybe we should go
Great.
visit Joanie, though.
Yes.
We should now. What's the weather like at your place?
It's sunny, but it's chilly in the
Chilly.
40s, I think.
Did you guys ever get the snow?
We did last weekend.
We did.
A lot in the
Good.
mountains, not a lot down here, but.
Okay. Um, So we're picking up on our last. We did a really had a really great discussion about work-life balance on our first segment, and we want to pick it up and talk about how to become a resilient leader. You know, we're facing challenges. We may be overstretched and overwhelmed, but there's also an opportunity for leaders to remain resilient through those challenges and setbacks, because some of the things are not going to go away anytime soon, as we know. So it's just a matter of us being intelligent in how we managing ourselves. So, Joanie, talk to us about how leaders and managers can help their people, their employees. I want to kind of start off with that before we're taking care of ourselves. How do we help our employees and our teams to be more resilient in the workplace?
Excellent question. Well, resilience has really two main factors. The first one is being able to stay strong and stay positive in the face of challenges and barriers. And the second one is being able to take time out so that you have the capacity to stay in it for the long term. We look at this for people at all levels in the organization, and I do a lot of assessment work, for example, and that's one of the key factors, is can someone bounce back if they make a mistake and stay positive, and can they last for the long haul? So how do we help people do that? Well, one of the ways is allowing people to make mistakes and thinking about them as learning opportunities more than punishment opportunities.
Mhm.
Now, clearly, we don't want people to make huge mistakes because that would be a problem for our organizations. But if we start out small and let people figure out ways to do that and branch out and maybe make calculated risks, then it helps people feel more comfortable and be more positive if they do end up needing help at some point because they have made a mistake. The second thing is having this work-life balance overall, valuing that time to recover and take the weekend off or actually take your vacation instead of accruing the hours year
Mhm.
after year after year.
Right.
And understanding the importance of that this will, in fact, boost productivity and help the company when people do take time off.
hmm And I want to talk about something that you share in your book. It's called Real Life, which is the acronym Resilient, Empowered, Authentic, and Limber. So talk to us about that and how important that is, not only for our employees, but as leaders to manage our own resilience.
Excellent. Okay. Well, resilient, we talked about that piece here. I guess part of the issue is that in real life, we talk about that just in normal terms, that it's not always easy. It's not always wonderful and easy and fun. Sometimes it's really tough, and we have to be able to deal with those kind of situations. The resiliency factor will allow us to be strong when we run into these barriers. And the R, that's the R for resilient. E is empowerment. And when we are empowered to take care of these problems ourselves and to take charge and take responsibility for making things better, for solving problems,
hmm
rather than feeling like victims and letting somebody else take charge, then we can feel better about it. And there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that people who feel like they have more control over a situation are much better off psychologically. authentic is the A part, and that is actually being able to admit it if you've made a mistake and being able to talk about it and being real when you come to work. If we come in acting like somebody else or thinking we have to be perfect all the time and put on a show rather than actually being who we are, that adds another level of stress to our normal day-to-day interactions. And the L, the limber piece, is actually essentially being flexible and being able to flex when the situation calls for it. At the company, we have this all the time. Things change. Our deadlines shift. The competition throws something out at you that you weren't expecting. And we have to be able to flex for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Those are great, and they are found in Joanie's book. Which is really kind of a cool thing because it gives you, it's not just being resilient, but you also have, you're empowered to do things, you're authentic as a leader, and you can be kind of flexible with everything that's going on. So those are a great roadmap. Liz, talk to us about some of that and how where do you see that in your business or kind of across industries with becoming a resilient leader? You can join us into the conversation.
Well, I really love the point of how important it is for us to have a sense of control. And I think that is where a lot of leaders kind of are missing the boat, is that they're not instilling that in their employees. And their employees feel like they're really at the whims of their leaders and they have no control over what's going on. So I'm wondering if you can maybe give some pointers to leaders out there. How can you give your employees a level of control without feeling like you've lost all control?
Liz, that's an excellent question. And this one also comes down to trust. If you don't trust your employees to get the work done the way you want it done, you're not going to feel like you can give them control. So part of that is getting your employees to the point where you're able to trust them. They're capable, and they're also good people who have integrity. And the other piece is getting yourself to the point where you are trusting of them. That comes into yourself. Is it a matter of control that you have that you can't let go of? So if you have people that are good people that you can give work to, then maybe it's up to you to realize that you need to be able to let go of some of that control as well. That's a hard thing for leaders to do sometimes, especially when they feel like they're the ones responsible for the results.
And that's true, and I see that, and I think we have a lot of kind of the old boys network going on in some organizations, and they've been running these organizations for so many years that they have a really difficult time kind of letting that go and empowering their employees to actually make decisions and act on their own. So some great advice.
Yeah, well, and there too, it starts with starting small, giving your employees small tasks and seeing how they do, coaching them so that they understand what their expectations are and how they can learn how to do it on their own, rather than just telling them what they have to do and giving them your way of doing it all the time, so that they can come up with their way. It may not be your way, but it's still a good enough way to get it done, and helping them learn how to do these things on their own and be more independent.
Great advice. I think that a lot of it's kind of across the board. Many managers and leaders feel the same way in that regards. At the point that you guys are talking about there, part of being a resilient leader, which we talked about, was being authentic. And I came across a really actually inspiring piece, and I believe in one of your articles about authentic leaders are great leaders, and whether you are one. But I'd like for you to kind of define what authentic leadership means from your perspective, because I know there's a lot of people are describing authentic leadership in many different ways, but I'd like to, for our audience, to hear yours, and we'll start off with that, and then really how we really can remain that authentic leaders in their organization, in our life. How can we make sure that our integrity is in balance here?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. How are we authentic and what level of authenticity are we bringing to the workplace? Well, authenticity comes up in terms of are we really being true to ourselves? And first of all, you have to know who you are and what your values are to know if you're being true to yourself. And that's a big piece of self discovery. You'd be surprised how many people get up to very high levels of leadership and aren't really in touch with what their true values are. And this is a time when people suddenly get to a point and they say, something's wrong here. I need to think about this. And they get to the point where if they don't, they're not going to keep moving forward. So
Mhm.
finding out who you are, what you value is a place to be. And then being transparent about that is the second part, right? Letting people know what your values are, letting people know not just your values, but what your strengths are, and if you have vulnerabilities, what they are. So often we come in thinking we have to be Superman or Superwoman at the workplace, and we have to be perfect, and everybody around us needs to see that image of us, or else as a leader they're not going to be able to follow us. But I've actually found the reverse in dealing with leaders and organizations. It's the leaders who are comfortable talking about mistakes they've made or gaps that they have are the ones who really motivate other people to move forward because they realize it's not a matter of this ideal that they can't live up to. It's not a matter of being perfect. It's a matter of using what you have to get the best that you can.
I couldn't agree more, and I think that that's where leadership is going nowadays, where it's okay to not have all the answers and not be that know-it-all person, and it's really good to where I kind of picking up on what you said is I think that vulnerability and authenticity builds collaboration with other leaders because now
Mhm.
we're not just utilizing the power of one individual. I don't really like the word power, but in this particular sense is we're using our collaborative power to get to know how can we fix a problem in our organization, and there used to be a time where it was just the elite members of the organizations were coming up with the solutions, but now I think it's trickling down because leaders are essentially, maybe we're not hearing that enough. We're saying, I'd like to know more, I like to discover more with other people, but there is an opportunity for people to come together. Do you sense that that's where it's going?
Well, that people are working more closely with others, absolutely. The hierarchy has shifted in organizations, and technology has impacted that a great deal.
Hmm.
Just the advent of email, for
Right.
example, suddenly you could access people higher up. But I think that's also changed the thinking of the way things have been done. Do we have these, elite circles where nobody else has access to
Right.
them? And the modern methods of motivating people and leading people suggest that empowering them and helping them realize their potential are actually more effective than just beating them into submission,
Right.
as was the previous model back
Right.
in the
the
industrial era. Yeah,
the command and control, right?
yeah.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed our time together. I had a lot of different topics, but I think our audience will definitely. I think we're adding value to their day and their leadership by your advice and insights. So I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks, Tal. It's a pleasure talking to you and Liz.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. We can actually, what we'll do is we'll post this a little bit later between now and tomorrow with a blog post as well. So stay tuned for all of that. It's been a pleasure. Liz, thank you so much for joining us as well.
Oh, thank you, Tal.
Thanks.
All right. Great, everybody. See you later. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thanks a lot, both of you.
All right.